Hello everyone, welcome to yet another flipped video on market intervention, this one being the price floor. So, what is a price floor? Well, very similar to a price ceiling, a price floor is some sort of government imposed price on the market, but in this case it's a minimum amount that can be paid for a particular good or service. And so if it's going to have any impact on the market, of course it has to be above the equilibrium price. And so a binding or effective price floor is above the equilibrium price. And if you look at this diagram here, if you set a minimum amount that can be paid for, let's say, a liter of gas, and if it was below the equilibrium price, well, then what difference would it make? Who cares? Nobody's trying to pay anything lower than that minimum price. But if you set it above the market price, then it's going to have an impact on the market. It's going to have some sort of effect. And so let's imagine, yet again, our market equilibrium was at a price of $20, and again, forgive me, I probably shouldn't have picked the same quantity, but let's say it's 20 or 20,000 units, as we see in this diagram here. And let's just say the government comes along and says, well, we don't like that price. We think that price is too low. For example, a minimum wage. If the market rate for labor was particularly low, the government might come along and say, nobody can live off of that. And so we're going to pass a law that says it's illegal to pay anybody less than some amount up here. All right, so in this diagram, let's say they set some sort of legislated minimum at $30. That's well above the market price of $20. So let's take a look at the impact that's going to have on the market. As you can see, at this higher legislated price, at the price floor, the supply would be much higher than the demand. In this case, we have a supply of 30 units, but a demand for only 10 units. And so you'd have a surplus. And if we were to follow the example of a minimum wage, what that would mean is you'd have a lot more people wanting to work than you'd have employers wanting to hire them. So if we look at these numbers, we have a surplus of 20 units, 30 minus 10. That's this difference here. So what can the government do? Well, if the government is going to impose a price floor like this, in this scenario, then what they'd really have to do to clear the market is come along and serve as some of the demand for this new higher supply of, let's follow the example of labor. And what they might do is hire some of that surplus labor, or they might subsidize private employers and help them to hire more of this surplus demand. Either way, we'd be in a situation where instead of just leaving the demand to the market, you would have some sort of government demand as well for that surplus good or service. And that hopefully would clear the market and absorb that surplus demand, or I should say surplus supply over the demand. All right, thank you so much for watching that video. And next we'll take a look at an excise tax.